All right. So I should be streaming right now. Yeah. Driver. All right. Stream health is good, it looks like. Good. Your viewers are happy. Depends on if you guys can hear me. That was the problem last time, is that you guys couldn't really hear me. Check. Alrighty. Now let's see if we're going to hey, anybody that's listening, feel free to chat with me and communicate with me in the chat field. All right, let's see if I can get people on here. John Booker. No. What the hell? Hey, JB. Hey, we are being live streamed right now, so I'm going to be trying to do live streaming again. I'll be a little better at this. Well, you guys can hear me at this point right now, right? Okay, wait. John Booker's calling me. Let's see. All right. You sound pretty good. I switched over to a different one of my bands on my router, so sounds better right now. Seems better. All right, I'm gonna. While we're waiting for Chris and Nate also. Yeah, Nathan also. Oh, it looks like Nathan's actually on. I'm gonna try to troubleshoot with some of the people here. Can you guys hear us clearly now at this point? Us clearly talking. Everything seems to be going well, which is kind of shocking to me. I'm not used to this streaming working so well. So, in the meantime, I guess I'm gonna add Nate to the call. Oh, we got a response. Hey Yoda, Shakita, Endless Mike. Oh wow, how shocking! Everything's working. All right, cool. Let me add Nathan Hartman to the call. Nathan Hartman. Nope, not yet. Hey, what up, Nate? You're being streamed live right now, so people can hear you. So don't talk shit about any of our listeners right now. I'm experimenting with live streaming now, because I just upgraded my internet, and it seems like it's working out. I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to ignore the chat field for most of the time because I feel like it's gonna be distracting. But right now it's okay because we're not actually recording yet. So. Oh yeah, we can see because you're coming through with video right now. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm spying. We're spying on you right now. It's okay. Now we know that Nathan Hartman podcasts with his shirt off, which I appreciate. You know, one time one time I recorded with somebody, and I don't think that he knew that he was on video because he was just putting on video. He took his shirt off while he was recording because I guess it was hot because you have to record with the windows closed. And I was just sitting there just being like, dude, do you know that we can see you right now? It was really weird. Anyway. No, I wish, man. I wish. Guy can... Oh, okay. We see it. There's an issue here. Record if you don't mind. And I have an issue here. Okay. Okay. Keep it on for a second, I'll tell you. So people can't hear you guys, so I have to figure out how to make that happen right now. I see what you guys are saying, guys. How do I get...
It's fun stuff.
Yeah, it can be. On good days when I can concentrate.
All right, you guys should be able to hear them now, right? You guys talk so they can hear you.
Hello.
Dear friends, this is John Booker live coming at you. I hear our friend Shakita is listening in. Shout out to you, Shakita.
If you guys, I'm sure the chat field will just distract you guys, so I'm not even going to tell you whether to find the chat field. Let's see if our friend Chris Hartwell has graced us with. It's only
a big panel today.
Yeah, big panel. It's only been 10 minutes, so we can't expect Chris to be here yet.
I almost, because the panel was so big, I almost stepped aside and just said, you guys take it. But the last podcast I did with Dylan, I got reamed so hard on the internet.
You did get it pretty bad. You got it.
I did.
Really?
I feel like I need to get back up on the horse.
Every time like you got tagged on a tweet, I was kind of like, you don't have to tag him in it, guys. You don't have to be an asshole about it. Hey, at least I didn't just go, yeah, you're right, he's an idiot. Like I was every time somebody tagged you, and I was like, no, that was mean. I'm not gonna be mean. Like somebody can disagree. Like
I know. I was like, I just disagreed about.
Yeah.
And I had people say, like, one guy said, like you were unlistenable. And I was like, oh my god, okay. Just an opinion, man. Chill out.
Yeah. Well, I got that from Watch and Talk when I did the same. Or not. I'm sorry. Watching Westworld or whatever our podcast is called.
Did you? Yeah. No, I got rode so hard after that last podcast we did on Twitter that I
Yes,
said,
yes,
"Man,
Mike. He's talking about on Better Talk Sol. Yes.
Yeah.
They're reaming you in the chat field right now.
Oh
No, not really. No,
please.
they're not really. I'm just joking. I guess I'll message Chris and say, "Hey, Chris.
You can say that
It's
if a
Friday."
guy who's 3 hours different time wise, if a guy who's got a different time zone can make it, he has no excuse.
And 11:30.
John, how was hobnobbing?
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was awesome. It was a fun little group that showed up to listen to me talk, and we had a good conversation, good Q&A. It was a lot of fun. Thanks again for that connection.
Yeah, I know. I'm happy it worked out.
Yeah.
They're Jonah over there is really trying to start something. So
yeah,
it's been pretty good for them, I think, last couple of years. So
it was very, very cool.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear.
Somebody just said, John, Yoda Pagoda just said, I didn't agree with Booker. I didn't agree with Booker, but he didn't drive me nuts for the whole show. So that's the compliment.
You, Yoda Pagoda.
That's the
Thank
compliment.
you.
That's a great poll quote.
Wow, I can't believe this is working. Oh, so Chris obviously did not remember we're recording right now. Let's see if he's going to try to get out of it. I think that he just said, it's not just you. No. Yes. This is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. You make plans with Chris Hartwell, and he's a busy man. He's a busy man.
Yeah.
He's typing right now. I guarantee he's going to say, I'm so sorry, dude, ... enter. All right. It's fine. I'm not even going to... I'm assuming it's just going to be us then. All right. Okay, we going without you. We can wait a few mins.
Yeah, I'm unemployed for a month and a half, so I've got plenty of time.
Oh, I'm going to tell him that. Nathan says he's unemployed for a month and a half.
Yeah, so I got that much time at least. I think John's schedule is probably going to be a little harder to work.
No, we're fine. We'll be fine if it's scheduled.
Tell Chris that I actually have access to the new Star Wars trailer and am going to debut it on the show, but only for people that are, going to be on the podcast. So, tell him he's going to miss that.
Yeah, well, that happens.
That's totally not true, by the way, but I know what'll get Chris's attention.
All right, we're going without Chris, guys. This is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Let me try to catch up with the chat field here. Okay, I'm not going to be able to read this because I'm sure I'll get distracted while we're going over our episode. But we're going to do. You guys can see the behind the scenes without the music and all that kind of stuff. And we'll do what we've watched recently, guys, and then we'll just get straight into our review. Did anybody here see Okja?
Oh, it's like what would I do tonight or tomorrow?
Okay.
I'm excited for it.
So I guess I'll talk about it by myself.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, obviously not spoiler or anything like that. So anyway, all right. So we'll go John first and then Nathan.
Okay, I'm recording now.
And are you going to record, John? Oh, yeah, you're always recording, huh?
Yeah, hold on 1 second, though. I do need to set my recorder just died for a second, so give me just half a second.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. recorder.
Yeah, we record everything we say with you, Dylan. It's the only way we can make sure our lawyers are happy.
Understandable.
Okay, I'm recording now.
All right. John, let's sync it up. 1,
2.
Okay. And then Nathan, let's sync it up. 1,
2.
Okay. Welcome to the Watch and Talk. I'm Dylan Shuck.
I'm John Booker.
And I'm Nathan Hartman.
In this podcast, we're going to be reviewing Baby Driver, and you're going to hear all of our previous reviews at thewatchandtalk.com. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters. If you want to be a supporter of the show, go to patreon.com/thewatchandtalk. Big shout out to our premium supporters, Shakita, June, Endless Mike, and Kaka. And we'll give a shout out at the beginning of the month to our other tier of sponsors. Big shout out to Terry, Ashley, Diane, and Derek Posteroni. So yeah, thank you guys very much. Hey guys, have you ever struggled with a social media account or presence or anything like that?
Dylan, I struggle on the daily with social media. If only there were a service that could help me with that.
If only.
If only, guys. If only. Anyway, let's get into our review this week. Noted. Hold on one second. I'm having my mixer is having issues over here. This is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. This kind of stuff happens all the time.
Dylan, I thought we just set you up for like to mention your sponsor.
I know. I was being funny. I was being funny and pretending like I was ignoring that, and then moving along. But then my mic cut out, so then it was just killed my joke.
The joke got sidestepped.
But big shout out to CoinCrack. With CoinCrack, you can boost your social media presence. All you have to go to thewatchandtalk.com/CoinCrack. Go check them out. What do you guys think? You guys think you'll check that out?
Dylan, as I mention every single time I'm on the podcast, whenever CoinCrack sponsors, I do feel it is my duty to the listeners to point out this has nothing to do with any sort of game you play with plumbers who may be working on your sink.
The joke just does not get old for you.
The crack of a plumber is not funny. It is not encouraged by this podcast. Support CoinCrack.
It hurts feelings. What it does. It's what it does. And big shout out to Ninth Link. Ninth Link designers are ready to listen to your business needs and create websites, applications, and email campaigns. Check them out at thewatchandtalk.com/ninethlink. So, yeah. So, guys, we're here to talk Baby Driver. Before we do, we're not doing top 5 this list or top 5 list this week. But I feel like we'll talk about Edgar Wright and kind of rank Edgar Wright movies a little bit at least. I don't know. I'm going to struggle to do it because I don't have any of the Edgar Wright movies fresh in my mind. But I feel like you guys will have an easier time, and I feel like I'll let you guys run with that conversation. What do you guys think?
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But before that, we'll talk about what we've watched recently and go over some of the stuff. I watched a couple things that are topical that I wanted to discuss soon. The new Netflix series by Jenji Kohan called Glow. Have any of you guys heard about this or checked this out at all?
I'm very excited. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it's about it's funny enough. It has Mark Maron in it as playing an actual character, which he hasn't really done before. Maron, right? Yeah, he's always played Mark Maron before, and he's actually playing a character on this, which is something I appreciate. But the plot description for it is a look at the personal and professional lives of a group of women who perform for a wrestling organization in Los Angeles. So Allison Brie is the main character, and you see she's a struggling actress in the 80s. This show kind of does, for Stranger Things, what, does for, I don't know, like 80s glamour, what Stranger Things did for, like 80s horror movies, or those kids horror movies, or whatever that the case may be with that. But yeah, she's a struggling actress, and then she gets a casting call for this new female wrestling company, and she gets into that. It's called a comedy, but it never makes me laugh. It's not. I don't think it's that kind of a comedy. I guess that's one of my main gripe with it is I'm never laughing. I'm not even really smiling. I'm just kind of watching it. But it's really easy to watch. They're half-hour episodes, and I, in my first sitting, watched maybe 6 of the episodes. I'm almost finished with it. I guess I feel like I'm almost finished with it when I watch them that quickly. But Mark Maron's the best part of it, if you ask me. And interesting enough, the wife of on American Gods, Dane Cook's character's wife on that show, yeah. She's one of the main characters on this, and she kind of plays a similar role. And she also does this drunk acting that I guess she has to do in every single one of her roles. That's just so obnoxious to me. I can't even stand it. But she basically is the same character as she played in American Gods, which is really funny to play it so soon.
This is Jenji Kohan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, what a fascinating creator that pretty much every show she does, she is shining a light on a segment of the female population that we would never consider otherwise. So, with Weeds, it's this
suburban
soccer mom drug dealer. Orange is the New Black. Women in prison. Glow, women in the wrestling scene. So I think she's sort of building, a resume of all these strong female characters that we would never see on screen otherwise, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth watching. I feel like it's picking up a lot of steam, and I feel like anybody that likes to be on top of things, and I don't know, I think it's worthy of checking out just because I feel like it's going to be a big show. And it was easy for me to watch, but it's just not it's not like just like Orange is the New Black. You're not going to bust up laughing while you're watching it. It's not that kind of humor. So anybody looking for that, but it's interesting though. Again, you haven't realized how little you've seen Marc Maron be a character until you see Marc Maron in this role, which is he's kind of being a character. So it's actually interesting to see him like that. And other than that, I also watched. Well, I watched the Big Sick, which I absolutely loved. Spoiler alert!
I'm excited about that movie.
I saw that as well. Loved it.
I'm doing a review for that and the Beguiled? How is that pronounced?
The Beguiled.
Beguiled. Goodness. I'll have the pronunciation down by then, but that's coming out in a couple days too. So look for that here on the Watch and Talk. So we'll do some reviews on those. So check those out. But I absolutely loved The Big Sick. I'm going to be curious to see what I'm going to save most of my thoughts for that review, but I'm going to be curious to see what John has to say about it. But before, real quick, I also watched the new show, the new movie, which I was very excited for, on Netflix, called Okja. And that's about a young girl who risks everything to prevent a powerful multinational company from kidnapping her best friend, a massive animal named Okja. Now, we've heard about this for a long time. It's from Bong Joon-ho, who did who did Snowpiercer, and he's kind of a visionary director. So we've seen a lot of trailers for this for a long time. I've been really looking forward to seeing it. I do wish I saw it in the trailer or in the theater. I really just don't want to watch things at home. I don't. There's too many distractions at home, and especially a movie that has so much subtitled, it's frustrating to watch it at home. It's just distracting, and it's tough to get into it. So I do wish I saw this in the theater. But Okja, the animal itself, looks awful. It's a big CGI. It looks like it's straight out of 2004. It just doesn't look good. Doesn't really affect the movie that much, to be honest, because so many movies over rely on CGI. But it really did look bad. Like, it doesn't look good.
That's surprising because the CGI in Snowpiercer was pretty legit.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes.
I don't remember big CGI scenes from Snowpiercer or anything like that. What are you referencing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff was CGI, just because I don't think they had the sort of budget to go shoot a lot of that stuff on location. But
yeah.
To me, I like Snowpiercer a lot, but I didn't feel like that was a strong. That it's in that director's wheelhouse to really pull off these big CGI.
Well, so the idea is this massive multinational company is trying to solve starvation issues, and they're trying to they genetically engineer this massive pig, and they spend 10 years in different parts of the world and seeing who grows the biggest one, and whoever does wins, because they're trying to find the climate and the situations to grow it the best and all that kind of stuff, right? And
did you think that's maybe, is it like a metaphor for police brutality or the military industrial complex, or is it really just about a big pig?
It's about, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily about any of those. I think it's an anti-corporate message completely. And it's about, our gluttony with and how our food system has been completely commercialized and all that kind of stuff. It deals a lot about things that animals deal with and all that kind of stuff, and animal rights and all that kind of stuff. But it's not overly preachy on it, so don't think that you're gonna be sat down and feel bad about eating meat. But yeah, in general, the movie's bizarre. Tilda Swinton and Jake Gyllenhaal both are like cartoon characters almost. They're so zany and kooky, and this is for Tilda Swinton is always pretty zany, but she is probably one of the most zany she's ever been in this. She's just so weird. She actually plays 2 characters in it as well. Anyway, it's a really weird movie, but it's absolutely worth your time to watch. I just wish I was able to see it in the theater. I could have gone to a screening of this, but I went to a screening of The Big Sick, and I wish I just went to see this and just paid for a ticket to see The Big Sick. I'd be curious to see what you guys have to say about it, but obviously you guys haven't seen it yet. So, but that's Okja, and that's available for streaming on Netflix, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. But it's a very, very weird movie, and Jake Gyllenhaal is just completely bonkers in this movie. So, he plays like a Steve Irwin type of character, like a famous, a TV animal person or whatever that becomes the face of this company.
He did sort of look like he went full Stanley Tucci and Hunger Games.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good way of describing it. Anyway, so those are the things I've watched recently, and I'm curious what you guys have watched recently. What about you, John? What have you watched recently?
Yeah, so I also saw The Big Sick, which I loved, and I won't say too much more.
Slice and onions in the theater?
Boy, that one certainly got me. And I've been a big fan of his actually for some time. Kumail
Nanjiani, yeah.
Yeah, he's hosted a podcast at Nerdist, for many years. And I really fell in love with him there, and then seeing him in a variety of other films, and then his role on Silicon Valley is just hilarious to me. Love Kumail. So that was I have a feeling that one is possibly going to make my top 10 list.
Spoiler alert! I think
20.
mine's gonna be in the top 10 list. Also, I think that The Big Sick's gonna make my top 10 list of the year.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of awards buzz about The Big Sick already, so we'll see.
I'll be like you, Dylan. I'll be surprised if that one is not still in my top 10 at the end of the year. That's the sort of stuff that I go see movies for. To be honest with you,
here's the best thing I could, or the biggest complaint I'd say is they could have trimmed 15 or 20 minutes off it. It falls into the same thing that all Judd Apatow productions fall into, that they just make them a little too long for a comedy. So if they trimmed 15, 20 minutes off it, I never would have even looked at my watch.
Yeah.
I don't have a watch, but I wouldn't have looked at my phone to see what time it was.
Completely agree.
But it's just fantastic. And I think award buzz worthy, I'd say Holly Hunter is the best bet on that.
For sure, even if it doesn't, score Academy nominations or even Golden Globes, for sure the Film Independent Awards, for sure it's going to do well there. But I hope it goes bigger than that, because I feel like it's a film that deserves even bigger recognition than that. So we'll see. I also got to see The Little Hours this week. Not sure if either of you have got to see that yet.
Mm-mm.
No.
This is the comedy about the really raunchy comedy about the nuns with
I'm
Aubrey
excited about
Plaza. Yeah, I laughed so hard. I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to say about it yet, but let me just say, really liked it, and it was worth my time. Also, I was a bit behind on this, so I caught up with The Handmaid's Tale this week. So finally got through that show, and that show has sparked so much strong reaction, either loving it or hating it, or feeling like it's important or feeling like it's a violation. That unless we're going to have a long discussion on it, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I thought it was a very interesting show, and I'm really glad that
I haven't seen it yet. Should I put that at the top of my list, John?
I would put it in at least your top 3 of next ones to watch for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it is certainly the type of show, Dylan, that you often do a whole podcast around.
I often do a lot of podcasts around shows, so I understand.
Yes. Well, it's just the sort of show that begs for a much greater discussion. Like Westworld, it takes place in this dystopian future that doesn't seem very far away. Some of our current political climate seems to lend itself very much to the possibilities of some of the things that happen in the show. And so it feels, even though the book was written some time ago, it feels like a really, really relevant story for right now. And there's some tremendous performances in the show, but really it is what the show does to your thinking and what the show does in challenging you for, how would I stand up to some of these things, or how would I participate in some of these things. It's really an intriguing show, really interesting. And I do think if you're a person that likes thinking television or thinking shows, it's definitely for you to check out. The last thing I saw this week, and I know I can't say much about this, unfortunately, but I did get to see Detroit this week.
Ooh.
And
I've avoided even trailers for that, so please do try to keep the plot summary to it.
I won't say any more other than to say I was deeply moved.
Do you think it could be up for awards in Oscar season?
Definitely so.
You think definitely?
Definitely so.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I won't say any more than that, but I definitely think it will be in the discussion around awards, and I was deeply moved. It's another, just like Handmaid's Tale, I think it is a story that is just metaphoric enough for our time that we will see tremendous relevance for where we're at. It is a zeitgeist film that is more about right now, even though it doesn't take place right now. It's more about right now than most films that we see. So I can't wait to talk about that one once you're allowed to talk more about it.
Well, I'll invite you on when we review that movie.
Can't wait.
All right, Nathan, what about you? What have you watched recently? Anything of importance?
Oh yeah, I've seen several new films, but I've been kind of getting into the oldies. I have myself a Filmstruck account. If you have not checked out Filmstruck, it is the Criterion Collection and the Turner Classic Movies collaboration streaming service. And boy howdy do they have a lot of fun stuff inside that collection. And two of the films that I recently watched inside of Filmstruck, one was Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill, starring Michael Caine, which is about as pulpy and exploitive a film as you can kind of get, and it brings up all sorts of discussions about gender and sexuality and how we portray things on film. But at the same time, it's also just sort of a load of fun and an interesting mix of kind of slasher and kind of like a 1980s Hitchcock sort of film, I would say. It's definitely an homage to Psycho, and there's a little bit of Vertigo in there too, and a couple scenes in that are just about perfect, especially one, for those who've seen it, that takes place inside of an art gallery, a dialogueless scene where a woman seeks out a man inside an art gallery. It's just really good. The other movie that I've had, I loved as a kid, and I hadn't seen it forever, and I finally got a chance to re-explore it, was Peter Bogdanovich's What's Up, Doc, starring Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal, which is just a screwball comedy in all the best ways. It's also Madeline Kahn's first role. So if you like Madeline Kahn from, let's see here, she was in Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles. This is her first role, and she shines in it. She won some awards for it, and it is just a goofy tale of four bags that look the same, getting passed around between the wrong sort of people in a hotel. And Ryan O'Neal gets to make fun of his role in The Love Story, which is another movie. So it's all good fun, and Barbra Streisand just kills it. So totally recommend What's Up, Doc if you're looking for a laugh. Finally, I finished up season 3 of Fargo, which I think continues to be one of the best TV series on television right now. And
I haven't
though
caught it since I watched the first season, absolutely loved it, and fell off in the second season. And part of the reason is because FX. I don't think FX has a great streaming platform. I think they have an app on Roku though. I need to actually check out and try to use.
Yeah,
that.
I wouldn't disagree with that. You know, I don't think it gets the attention it certainly did, especially when it started. But this season had Ewan McGregor and
Carrie Coon.
So many people are in this season of Fargo, and they really, Carrie Coon plays the main sort of Frances McDermott type character for the season, and you know, it's just a lot of fun.
I heard this season gets away from Fargo though. It gets away from that setting.
Well, they
Maybe
all
for the betterment
aren't. Well, they all aren't staying necessarily, and they're in the Fargo area. I would say there is a whole episode that takes place in Los Angeles, which is very unique for the show. It's sort of a standalone episode, but it's also really, really fascinating. And everyone just puts in just great performances, and especially David Thewlis, who people might know from Harry Potter. He plays the bad guy in this season, and he is the ending is just really a real thought-provoking sort of way of kind of concluding a story. So I highly recommend Fargo as well if you've never seen that. So that's what I've been up to.
I'm going to get on that. All right. Shall we review Baby Driver?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we'll do a non-spoiler review of Baby Driver. So we'll do a non-spoiler discussion of it, and then we'll have a spoiler section at the end we'll switch to. The plot summary for this movie is: after being coerced into working for a crime boss, a young getaway driver finds himself taking part of a heist doomed to fail. And it is directed by Edgar Wright. Actually, before we get into that, why don't you guys, I don't know, do you guys want to rank your Edgar Wright movies, or give a little bit, like, what your favorite Edgar Wright is? I wouldn't even be able to say I'm going to be useless in this. I'm just not an Edgar Wright person, I think. So I'm going to be completely useless in this conversation, but I would love to hear what you guys have to say.
I can do it really quickly. Number 5 for me is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Number 4 for me is Scott Pilgrim. 3 is also Scott Pilgrim. 2 is Scott Pilgrim, and my favorite Edgar Wright movie is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Very clever. Very clever.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was really simple.
So you don't have Shaun of the Dead anywhere on this list? Hot Fuzz?
At the risk of being skewered on Twitter, as I have been previously on this show, those films were just not, they didn't resonate with me really that great. I kind of could take or leave them. I'm not, I didn't think they were horrible. They just didn't resonate with me. They weren't part of my, enjoyment experience that I really got into them like a lot of people did.
Trust me, I'm going to be the one getting skewered for this episode. Don't worry. I'm going to be the one getting skewered for this episode. Do not you worry, my friend. What about you, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're looking at 4 movies here, or 5? I mean, I'm not going to count Baby Driver, so I think there's just 4.
At World's End.
At World's End, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and Scott Pilgrim are the ones I'm looking at here. I can't think of anything else. You know what? I'll put as number 5. I'll put his show Spaced, which was I count it because it is so much an origin of his style and what he wants to do. I mean, it has everybody that he works with in it. Sean Pegg and Nick Frost are both, or Sean Pegg. Yeah, no. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I don't know where my head's at. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are both in that show. It's great. Check out Spaced if you haven't. 4 would be World's End. And by the way, when I say 4, I mean, for me, his entire oeuvre has been sort of A-pluses in my book. I really, really enjoy what he's up to. The quick writing, the quick editing, it's always kind of jazzed with me really well. So World's End, which is a great film, really kind of about addiction. And then Shaun of the Dead. And then number 2, Scott Pilgrim, which is just, gosh, it couldn't be more fun. And then number 1, I think, is Hot Fuzz for me. It's just always a movie I can pull out on a rainy day and have a really good time with. So, but all of them basically I could pull out on a rainy day. Just great.
I think I'm with John. I think that Scott Pilgrim is probably my favorite. At the time when I remember when Shaun of the Dead first came out and everybody was just raving about it everywhere. I saw it and I liked it. It was fine. but it never really. Same thing with Hot Fuzz. It just I liked it, and it just kind of moved on, and I kind of forgotten about it, and they're not really fresh in my mind. I think it's because
was it possibly too British for you? I mean, they're very British.
I like the UK Office. I don't know. I like some British. I don't know. Maybe it is, but I just never. I just never connected. I think that's the best way to say it. Just like John said it.
Yeah.
They just never really strongly connected with me. I did not like them, but I just did. Just never really connected with them. I guess Scott Pilgrim's the closest, and it's not even that I love it as a movie, but I love its quirkiness. Like when things turn to coins in that, or the bad guys turn to coins, and he drops down and he starts picking up the coins. It's just the funny little quirky stuff like that most works wouldn't be doing and stuff like that. So I guess that's my.
I certainly wish we would have been able to see his Ant-Man, but sadly,
yeah. I wish that I spent this week, instead of watching Glow and Okja, that I spent this week watching these movies so I could speak more eloquently about them right now. So, but anyway, let's move into our review. John, why don't you start off with your basic thoughts about it? And I'm sure Nathan and I will probably interrupt and have a conversation with you while you're doing that, and then give your final grade, and then Nathan will go, and then we'll go to spoilers at the end of it. So.
Yeah, this is, I felt like one of those films that there are a lot of films out there that you can talk for a long time about and really get into sort of the psychology behind the characters and the films. And there's hints at certain aspects of that in this film. But, that's not really what Mr. Wright does in his films. His films, to me, are often more about style over substance. And that is not I'm not trying to diss him in saying that. I think many times I like that. Many times I like seeing somebody who's pushing the aesthetic or the style forward. I think in Scott Pilgrim, he really worked at pushing the visual style of filmmaking forward. And with this film, I felt like he really worked on pushing the audio side of filmmaking forward. To me, the best part about this film is his musical selections and the way that the film is edited to the music. That is really, if you're an Edgar Wright fan, I felt like saw classic Edgar Wright moments in the film. As far as the main character of this film goes, there are hints at a really interesting backstory that never fully materialized for me. There are, sort of nods to the cinematic history of sort of rebel characters like this. And this main character certainly is a cinematic archetype that we've seen before. But, that is clearly not the focus of the film, is trying to develop characters or even focus on any sort of nuanced storytelling. The film really is about, it is the cinematic equivalent of a joyride. And that's cool. That's totally fine. I think what Edgar Wright is setting out to do in giving us that joyride, he does well. He accomplishes it. And this is one of those weird, rare films I think I could have enjoyed just as much with my eyes closed throughout the whole film as I did in watching it. And that's sort of an interesting thing. I always tip my hat to those who are trying to do something different, who are trying to push something forward. Also, I felt like there were some very subtle homages to some of the classic late 60s and 1970s films that were about cars, and those who love cars and love to drive them. A lot of, I think of like Steve McQueen, Bullitt, and even American Graffiti. We had an era in cinematic history where people's interest in cars were at a big high. And so to see, a different take on sort of car culture and those who drive cars, different from, Fast and Furious franchise through a completely different lens, was really interesting to me. The last thing that I'll say is I also really appreciated the casting in the film. There Kevin Spacey and Jamie Foxx, especially to me, play really interesting characters, and I really like their performances. The lead is somebody that most people are not going to be familiar with. I think he probably has a big career ahead of him.
He was in The Fault of Our Stars. I think that was his big role before this.
That was his big breakout performance. I don't necessarily think he was the right person to carry this film. I think
hot take.
Yeah, hot take. I think that honestly, this film, somebody that had a lot more swagger to them naturally, and that had the sort of personality of a bad boy, would have worked better for me in this role, where he just felt a little bit too innocent to be this character. So that was the final thought that I would have on the film. For me, I did enjoy the film. I didn't think it was the second coming of cinema, as a lot have felt like this summer. So for me, the film was a solid B. I liked it, but it wasn't a game changer for me, so I give it a solid B.
All right, Nathan, do the damage.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be the one that's going to be doing a lot of damage. But what I will say is that there are some movies that, like John said, you go in and there's a lot of critique and a lot of things to think about and that sort of stuff. And this is one of those movies that certainly has elements of that. But when it comes down to it, this movie is sort of in a weirdly good way style, maybe even over substance. It feels like a summer movie through and through. And I think I would disagree with John in the sense that I sort of really enjoyed the actor in the role of Baby. I think because of the innocent nature. And what is weird about it for me is the movie is sort of treats him like a savant. I don't think there's any other way of explaining it. He kind of hides himself behind glasses and with his earbuds and doesn't really come out of his shell until he kind of gets in the wheel. He only seems to be really expressive when he's sort of singing to himself in the car while he's waiting for people to rob banks. And in that way, I think that for a movie that has constantly characters saying what's the deal with this kid, I think it's a pretty good choice to have an actor that sort of makes us go, what's the deal with this actor in this role. It's a strange.
I agree that I don't think the actor is an issue that I had in this movie.
Right. I mean, I would say that it's always hard to portray characters whose kind of sole issue is that they're not really coming out of their shells. They're not really engaging with the world. They're sort of getting through, right? And so he spends sort of the narrative getting through until he can't really take it anymore or can't get out, and then sort of makes his own path and sort of embraces kind of taking the reins and doing what he needs to do. And that's a hard character to portray, and it's a hard character to have interest in a little bit because, there's not a lot of forward momentum. I mean, I would say the movie does well in the fact that he does have goals. He has, very specific ideas. The movie does certainly use the cliche of one last job and then I'm out. But at the same time, it seems to take all these kind of cliches and sort of rework them or, throw in things that we wouldn't expect. I wouldn't say I ever really saw a scene that I didn't see what was coming. But at the same time, I had such a blast watching it occur with, some of my favorite actors out there. Kevin Spacey, Jamie Foxx really kills it. Scared me. He's really, he's playing a wild card, and he really, really plays a wild card.
Yeah, he does.
And then, I don't think he gets enough credit in the movie, but Jon Hamm is just it's just like Don Draper finally decides to act out. And so he takes all that reservation that he's so honed over the seasons of Mad Men, and then he shows the rage that can kind of come out of that. And I would say I did, and I won't spoil anything because clearly that's for later. But I would say the third act sort of surprised me in its direction, and overall the pace kept me interested and kind of fulfilled. When I wanted to breathe, it sort of breathed. I really enjoyed. I think it's Lily Adams. Is that her name? I always forget. Who plays the main waitress, love interest?
I think she played Cinderella too, right?
She did, and she was in Downton Abbey as well. She's British. And I think she's
Cinderella, British. The Disney remake Cinderella that came out a couple years back.
Yeah, the live action one. So, and she's, I don't know, she really plays it well. I'm trying to remember who wrote this next sort of way of explaining the movie, and I apologize to the writer of the review, but the critic said basically this plays like a summer B-side remix of the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, and in many ways it kind of does. And for that, it's as fun as it can be, and for me that gives it a solid A. I just, you can't really you can't really argue with fun. So
you can, because I'm about to.
I know. I always fall in that Roger Ebert camp of critique. If for me, if fun kind of wins out the day, then that says something about how entertaining the movie is. Not, I would say, anything that is unique beyond the fact of how things are paced. It's very, very amazing how some of these scenes, especially the first scene, kind of uses music kind of instinctually to move the characters and the beats, and sometimes it feels more like a music video than a film. And so it does unique things there. He kind of
walks around in some early scenes, almost like Gene Kelly in Singing in the Rain, kind of interacting with the environments while he's dancing along to the music that he's listening to his headphones.
Yeah, and I think Ansel Elgort, I can't remember how his last name is pronounced, but he has a background in theater, from what I've been told. And so you can kind of see that at play. Now, so yeah, I wouldn't say the narrative is like groundbreaking or anything of that nature, but boy, does it know how to have a good time. So for me, solid A.
All right, so I did not enjoy this movie. And I had to spend the better part of the last 24 hours kind of floating around and being like, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me?
Well, you just don't have a soul, but that's fine. I mean,
I just, I don't think this is a bad movie, and I understand why anybody would like this movie. But I'm dealing with the same thing that I dealt with Shane Black's The Nice Guys from last year. Where everyone was all about it and everybody had a blast in it, and I was like, I can't get over seeing characters doing stupid things. I just can't get over it. And in this movie, it is chocked full of seeing your protagonists doing stupid things and with no real understanding of why they're doing them. And they get themselves into unneeded harm. The entire third act of the movie is unnecessary. It didn't even need to take place, and it was all self-inflicted. And for me, that's just, I can't get past that kind of stuff. I don't find any of the characters compelling. I didn't care about any of them. The love interest is, you're a good-looking person, I'm a good-looking person, let's run away forever together. Am I wrong?
I mean, yeah, but do you want me to clarify?
I mean, I don't want you to prove me wrong, but I do want.
There's no way to prove you wrong.
I want to hear your interpretation of that, because that was my interpretation of
the relationship.
The relationship between Baby and Deborah, for instance. I mean, I know why he was attracted to her. I know that his mom used to work in that diner, and that's why. And a lot of perhaps we should talk about
stuff about that too. I mean, I would say that they gravitate towards each other because of music, and the musical choices.
It's not something in reality. It's a great thing for movies, I guess, but it's
it's a movie.
I know.
I think something that I've sort of noticed about the way you look at movies, Dylan. I think it's fine, but you really desire rational characters.
I do,
and when they act irrationally, it bothers you.
No, I don't
know. He's a kid. I don't know. For me, as long as it sort of serves a greater narrative, it doesn't bother me as much. But you're right. I mean, it is, I mean, some people have compared this thing to La La Land in some sort of way, because
I can see why.
Just be stylistically, and
it's
I think
the movie is like
a
love poem to works of art that Edgar Wright enjoys, in the same way that La La Land was, right?
It's a love story to the iPod for sure.
But here's the thing: is I don't need them to act in a rational way. That's not necessary. But John and I just talked about this recently on a podcast. If they act in a non-rational way, I need to understand the motivations. I don't feel like I got enough to understand motivations for doing the outlandish things that happen in this movie with the characters.
And in that, I would agree with you. I felt like that was definitely a lacking, or whatever motivations that he had. I had trouble believing those motivations.
Or Kevin Spacey's motivations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one we can talk about in spoilers too. Yeah, I can gel with if we want to talk about Spacey's motivations.
So I'm not saying this is a bad movie by any way. There's no way you can watch this movie and be like, this is not a good movie that I'm watching. It wasn't like I didn't enjoy my experience with it. And the time, it was 2 hours. It was 2 hours that went by pretty quick. It's perfectly paced. And it didn't seem like it took that long. And I'm the type of person that will look and see what time is going on. I think I just watched Transformers. I think that one, the Transformers 5 last week and reviewed it, must have broken the record for how many times I looked at the time for a movie ever in my life. So when I sat there and be like, wow, I haven't looked at the time. Like, I know that means I am invested in the story, and I can say I was invested in this enough, right? I can say I invested enough, but. And I like how the film was kind of even edited along with the beat of music. There's actually even a scene where they're in a laundromat, and the camera is panning over to different dryers, and each different dryer has a different color linens in it, and it looked beautiful, like a music video or something like that. And there was a bunch of like stylistic things that they do like that look beautiful. And I love the idea of the entire movie and all that kind of stuff, but I just never cared about anyone or anything. Also, I know this is crazy, but I don't think there was enough awesome driving sequences. That early on in the movie, there was this completely show-off sequence where he like skids backwards in between things, and the rest of the movie, we didn't see enough of that. And I guess I could have used more of it, but it's not necessarily an action movie, so it's not like it was going to spend a ton of time with that kind of stuff or anything like that. But all in all, I could. It's one of these movies I could totally understand why somebody would completely love this movie, and they're not wrong. Actually, I feel like I'm wrong, but I have to be honest and I have to go with my gut, how I feel about this movie. And for me, I'm probably gonna give it a lower. Like, I'll probably regret this low of a score, but I'm gonna give it to it anyway. I'm gonna give it a C+. And I guess most of it, I guess we can switch to spoilers to discuss. But John, you seem to be in between where Nathan and I are. What do you?
Yeah.
Do you agree or disagree with a lot of things I said?
No, for me, I think some films really are interesting catalysts for bringing different things out of different people. And I think, the film hit on some cylinders for Nathan, that it brought out some things that he really enjoys and likes in a film that cause him to have fun. For you, the film touched on some things that just don't resonate with you. Yeah. And then for me, I think I was in the middle. It hit a few things that resonate with me, and then a few things that just don't have much charge for me. And so, I think that is almost any film that you would look at, but I think this film in particular is really sort of it's a litmus test for what sorts of things have charge for you and cause you to have fun in a film. And so, I think in some ways this film says more about the viewer than it says about the film, where we end up, grading it.
Yeah.
So when everybody in every crevice we look at in the internet is acting like John said, this is the second coming of Christ in a film, I guess it does say something about me where I'm different than I'm off the beaten path on that. It was an interesting case, because when I walked away from it, I was like, oh, let me look up the Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like, oh my God, 98%, holy shit. I'm like, oh man, I am in trouble right now. But I would never sit there arguing that anybody's wrong for, again, liking this or anything like that. I have some more points to make, and I took some detailed notes on some of these things. But I think we should probably switch to spoilers for those.
Yeah, probably.
And we can
Let's
continue
do it.
the conversation. John, why don't you tell people where they can follow you on the internet, just in case we lose some people?
Absolutely. Check me out on Twitter at John, JohnKBucher, or check out my website at tellingabetterstory.com.
What about you, Nathan Hartman?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at nhartmanonline. That's HARTMAN, N for Nathan, and Hartman Online. Or you can look at my website, nathanhartman.net. And but I'm usually on Twitter, so come and join me.
For me, you can follow me at Schuckster. That's SCHUCKSTER. For the show, you can follow us at The Watch and Talk. You can email us thewatchandtalk@gmail.com or go to our website at thewatchandtalk.com. Next week, we're going to be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming. So make sure to check that one out. I'm kind of excited for this movie, and it's getting great buzz right now.
Are you going to review a Ghost Story next week?
I'd like to do a bonus review on it, if you'd like to, John Booker.
I really thought that film was really, really interesting, and so if you end up doing a bonus review, I know I would have some things to say about that.
Okay, we'll discuss that. This is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, without further ado, let's switch over to spoilers.
Sure.
Okay. I'll tell you where the film completely lost me is when they passed by the diner and they had to go to that same diner. The film lost me there. I was like, you couldn't be cramming, like you're forcing this, like a director and writer is. I mean, I know it's the same person in this movie, but they're forcing this interaction right now. It could not have felt less natural for me. And, not only, I could go on about Jamie Foxx. I don't understand how they killed a guy because he left a shotgun, but Jamie Foxx is a complete loose cannon and he does stupid shit every 2 seconds, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the murder of the other guy was for incompetence over probably, Jamie Foxx is very competent at murdering people, apparently. Yeah. So, I mean, that could be said. He also seems to be the one who probably shot the guy. I don't think that was a call from Spacey's character, Doc. I just think he probably shot the guy. He seems to be judge, jury, and executioner on just about every sort of opinion and issue and, everything. So, for me, anyways, I just assumed that was Jamie Foxx's character.
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
That diner sequence was a cringe sequence for me.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I think Nathan brings up a really interesting point. For me, good storytelling is about having a protagonist and an antagonist that are equally matched. Right. And I felt like that Jamie Foxx's character was such a force of nature that he completely overwhelmed Baby's character. And I didn't feel like that they were equally matched protagonist and antagonist. I in some ways was much more interested in Jamie Foxx's character just because he was such a force of nature in the film.
Also because the movie treats Jamie Foxx like the antagonist, and then its whole third act is,
right.
John Hamm.
Right.
Which, right. If there is an issue I have with it, and this is why I don't think structurally it's like the most profound thing I've ever seen, is it's just, it's super weird that you sort of, I get what they did. They treated Buddy, John Hamm's character, like he was a buddy to our main character of Baby, and then upon the death of his girlfriend's, I think his wife actually, upon the death of his wife, it's no holds barred rage against Baby, and I get it.
Baby
but it
actually
doesn't necessarily flow as a narrative.
He also had a reason to, because Baby got her killed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he had purpose. We didn't see any reason. He wasn't an antagonist, really, much of the movie at all.
Yeah,
it's.
It's almost like each act was from a separate story. Yeah. And then they put 3 acts together from 3 separate stories. And what was meant to be a reversal of having John Hamm's character become, the real antagonist, to me lacked teeth. Even though I agree with what Nathan said earlier, I thought John Hamm killed it in this film. I thought he was great. He plays a great antagonist, but they paid off something that they really didn't set up.
I like the idea of that the whole movie, it's going to seem like Jamie Foxx is going to be the big bad. Or no, honestly, I felt like Kevin Spacey was going to be the bad guy the whole movie, right? He even said at one point, he's like, you're going to be behind the wheel or in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Spacey decides to die saving him out of nowhere, which didn't seem to go along with his character at all. And just to completely sacrifice himself, it just seemed like, okay, like I don't understand why he's doing this. Like I get it. You had the scene of him being like, oh, screw it, I'll do the right thing this one time, but he was threatening. You know, he put Baby in the situation by threatening him.
Are you saying he put Baby in a corner?
Nice.
Yeah, so I had issues with all these people in one way, shape, or form, especially how they all converged together at the end. I was never afraid of Jon Hamm's character at the end.
No, you don't get a chance to. Really, yeah, I mean, you sort of know it's bad, but you don't. I mean, I think that's sort of the issue, isn't it? Like, Jon Hamm's character doesn't get a chance.
Not only was I not afraid of Jon Hamm, but I also was not rooting for Baby. The only reason Baby is the protagonist in the movie is because it's showing from his perspective. But really, he's unlikable. And he did get everybody killed. He did get, Jon Hamm's wife, who we liked, right? We had no reason to not like her.
I like her very much, by the way. Very
John. Easy, boy. Calm down, John. Get the tasers on. Cattle prod. But yeah,
I think the thing that we're forgetting is, I mean, they all are bank robbers. I mean, it's not like, I mean,
all they had to do was show this movie from Jon Hamm's perspective, and Baby is the main villain of this movie. Mm-hmm. And I would buy it just as much as Jon Hamm being the main villain of this movie.
Well, I think Jon Hamm's character has opportunities where he sort of stands up a little bit for Baby, but you never really feel that they're close or that Baby, like, has some, if Buddy's character was looking to get out like if Buddy's character was looking to get out like Baby's character, and they had some sort of way of connecting with each other, and like he was getting out because, he wanted to live with his wife in Cuba or whatever and do whatever they wanted to do. Then that third act hits and they both have the same goal, right? I mean, they sort of do anyway, and one of them that goal has been taken away from them, and so they're going to make sure, the other one doesn't have love either. And I think that is an interesting sort of like parallel, but at the same time, it doesn't really work because we never really feel 100% like, Buddy is, kind of a friend of Baby. He's an acquaintance. He's, a partner in crime, but he's never a mentor or a big brother or anything that would make us sort of see this turn for him as tragic.
That's a big part of the problem for me, is that Baby really doesn't have a distinct moral lens from any of the rest of the characters. He is a bank robber with everybody else. And usually in these type stories, the trope would be that there's either going to be a grand moral lesson learned or, in a Quentin Tarantino film, at least the nuances of different moral lenses in crime are explored. But that was what was a little bit odd to me in this film, was that it almost was as if the movie was devoid of moral lenses altogether, and it sort of made all the characters on an equal playing field when it came to a moral lens. And they hint at, that Baby should have a different moral lens because his foster father, kind of gives him a hard time about the money that's being kept in the floor. And, we see him wanting to step away from this life, but we never really get any sort of indication of why he wants to step away from this life.
Right.
When Kevin Spacey approaches him, the second time about doing a job, I keep thinking it's weird his character wouldn't just keep making money with this guy, because I don't see any sort of conflicted moral feelings in his character about what he's doing.
His foster dad.
Yeah, but he sort of placated the foster dad. He didn't really seem to be affected or bothered by his foster dad's opinion about what he did.
Right. Well, this movie certainly had, and I keep kind of picking away at a movie that I gave an A, but I really did, stylistically, I just really had a great time. But, I think it definitely could be said that there are sort of two emotional poles in this movie. It's his foster father, and then of course Deborah, and they hold the whole emotion.
Wait,
the only reason we feel really
named Deborah at that diner.
Yeah.
God, that was so stupid. Anyway,
But they hold, they pretty much hold the emotion for the audience. If they're in trouble, we have problems. If Baby's concerned for them, the audience is concerned for them. But Baby himself, we don't concern for because, you're right. He doesn't really have a goal. If his goal was he wanted to become a race car driver, or he wanted to become a stuntman for Hollywood, or if he wanted to anything, right? I'm going to get out. I'm going to become a painter. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
He just doesn't seem to have an end goal. So we never really worry for Baby because we don't know what Baby wants anyway.
Yes.
Beyond the fact that he wants these two people to be safe. So I think, yeah, you're right. The movie's anchored emotionally on two people that aren't the protagonist, and that is always a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
So he recorded them. And he ended up
Right.
running into big shit because he recorded them.
See, this is when they treat him like a savant, and then they don't treat him like a savant, right? If it was a tick and he had to do it, I thought he was doing it so he could re-listen to things. Like he can't really hear things perfectly, right? So later, of course, there's this whole scene where Kevin Spacey asks him if he heard, and he heard perfectly. But for the beginning parts, I was like, oh, like because the music he can only hear 65%, and so he uses it as a way of like, oh, that seemed really important. Let me replay that real quick. Let me run that through my headphones, and then that's what's taking the buzz out of my ear. That works for me because it gives it a purpose. But when it's just like, again, like emotionally connected remix tapes, it's like, well, we didn't know he was making remix tapes in the first place.
Well,
Yeah,
and I
then-
think you bring up an interesting moment with, when Spacey asked him if he heard. I thought for a moment, at least, I'm still not sure this wasn't the case. I thought, oh, they're saying that Baby is an excellent lip reader, that he was listening to music the whole time,
yeah.
but he was just reading Spacey's lips because he got good at that with his stepdad. And so
Right.
but if you go that route, which I think is valid, I think then it completely sort of neuters the whole concept of why he's making these emotional, mixtapes, or why he's recording at all if he's such a good lip reader. So that was weird too.
Yeah.
And I must point out again that one of the tapes was labeled Deborah, and Jamie Foxx figured out because of that a waitress at the diner was somebody that he cared about.
Well, I mean, give them a little bit of credit. I do feel like he made a point of knowing Deborah's name. I mean, Bats was very much...
And he
was
almost
gonna
just
rob the
killed her
place.
right there,
He
too.
was- Yeah, I mean, he was in everybody's grill. And that's the problem. I mean, and John, I'm curious what you think about this, but like Bats' problem is what I have issues with at Twitter, come at me, with Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, when you embody chaos, that's not an antagonist. That's just chaos embodied. And it allows you to create tension, and it allows you to move a plot along. But again, Bats has no goal, right?
Yeah.
Like, and because of that, sort of just him being in, chaos in the casing shell of Jamie Foxx, you don't really know what he's going to do. And when he acts irrationally, we just kind of go, oh, well, the most rational thing for this guy to do is to act irrationally. We sort of accept it, but that doesn't lead for good character structure necessarily.
Yeah, force of nature characters rarely make good antagonists. That is just sort of a structural law of storytelling. It's one reason in The Godfather, that Marlon Brando's character is neither the protagonist nor the antagonist in that film. He's a force of nature character. Forrest Gump is a force of nature character. You have force of nature. Star Wars is a great example where the Emperor is the true antagonist, in Star Wars. And I think in this film in particular, Jamie Foxx is that force of nature character, and so they make John Hamm the antagonist. Now, your comparison with Batman, I think, is a good one, but I believe that the Joker and Heath Ledger's execution of the Joker is that rare exception where a force of nature character actually works as the antagonist. But, there's always an exception to the rule. But to me, that is an exception, in Dark Knight.
But oddly, the same way, they end The Dark Knight with a character that we were supposed to sort of gravitate towards tragically.
Yeah.
It's the force of nature character never gets they're not the bookend, right?
Yeah.
They're the middle, or the kind of middle of Act 3. But it always bookends, even in Dark Knight, with someone we're supposed to have some sort of emotional connection with.
That's right. Yep.
So and who knows?
I have to answer my own question earlier as to why we knew that Baby was a good guy. Is because he has a foster father that's in a wheelchair, and is deaf, so he learned how to sign language to him, right? And
sign language to cat, I think, is the screenwriting term.
And his other reason that we know he's a good person is because he glances at dead bodies when one of his partners kills somebody. He looks at them, so that us as an audience knows he's a good person because he recognizes that somebody's died in front of him.
Well, and the other reason we know Dylan is because he listens to old music, which is a page straight out of the Guardians of the Galaxy playbook. Honestly, is if the protagonist listens to old music and it reminds them of someone they loved, they're a good guy.
Yes.
So that is straight up Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, exactly. So I guess in closing, it's just I just don't think this movie was for me. I think it's for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this. I feel like this is going to be very popular for a long time, and I think a lot of people are going to hear, "Oh, I heard that movie was really good. I can't wait to check that out." I think it's going to happen for a long time. So I'm sure people are listening to this in forever from now. It's one of those cases of not me sitting here being like, "This is a bad movie, poorly constructed," anything like that. This movie is put together really well. It's paced really well. It's edited phenomenally. The way that he even edits scenes along to the music. There was a scene of them shooting, and the gunshots were in the tune of the music. Right.
And can I give pros to the fact that they casted Paul Williams in a role?
Yes. Yes.
I about jumped up and clapped. Paul Williams, who's a classic musician, probably best known for Rainbow Connection, which he wrote the music for, but also was the epic character Swan in Brian De Palma's The Phantom of the Paradise.
Yes.
It's just so good to see Paul Williams in anything. So I was floored that I would not have called that cameo in a million years, and I was so happy for it.
Yep. Me too. I loved that also.
I wanted more John Bernthal in this movie. I'm telling you, I really love John Bernthal, and I wish that he was in it more. Other than just
in movies, he always gets second banana, doesn't he? He doesn't get to shine. He's great in TV, but in movies, he's always playing supporting.
And you just used banana from the movie. Remember? Nicely done.
Very nice.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
One last thing, I really like the joke about the Mike Myers masks.
That was funny.
That was
great.
I didn't LOL, as one would say, as the kids say these days, but I did enjoy it. I at least got a smile out of it. Took a note of it. Anyway, all right. Any closing thoughts for the film?
I just want to say I know I gave a lot of tough critique, but I really did like the film and I did enjoy it. And music is a huge thing for me in films, and the music was just exquisite, and I really did enjoy that aspect of it. And I'm not sorry I saw the film. I didn't feel like it was a waste of my time. I really did like the film.
Yeah, I feel like Dylan, what you've done has sort of made me come to terms with issues with it.
Yeah.
And oddly, I would go see it now again. There's something weird about the fact that I can kind of diagnose my actual issues with it and still sort of shrug and go, oh man.
Here's where I was. I was in between B- and C+. And the fact that I don't want to see this movie again. Took me to see to the lower one. That's usually when I'm in between two grades. I just think, can I see this movie again? Or am I looking forward to see this movie again? And I feel like one time was enough for me for this film. So that's why I just feel like it's just not for me. It just wasn't made for my I don't know, mindset, I guess. Anyway, John, why don't you tell people again where they can follow you on the internet?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at John, JOHNKBUCHER, or check out my website at tellingabetterstory.com.
What about you, Nathan Hartman?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at nhartmanonline, NHARTMAN online at Twitter. And then, of course, my website is nathanhartman.net. So check me out.
And for me, you can follow me at Shuckster on Twitter. That's SCHUCKSTER. Go to thewatchandtalk.com. You can check out all of our previous reviews on it. Next week, we're going to be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming as our featured review. But we do have bonus reviews for The Big Sick and The Beguiled.
The Beguiled.
Goodness.
The Beguiled's about fish.
I just realized I've been typing it so much that I haven't been saying it out loud. So this is a problem that I'm running into. And for the show, you can follow us at The Watch and Talk. Email us at thewatchandtalk@gmail.com. Go to our website, thewatchandtalk.com, or our Facebook at facebook.com/thewatchandtalk. And that's it. I'm Dylan Shuck.
I'm John Booker.
And I'm Nathan Hartman.
And we'll see you next week.
Tequila, guys.
Well done, sir.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Always fun to be on with you two. The three of us are a fun little trio. I always enjoy that.
All trios are fun if John Booker is involved.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
So kind. So
Stop
kind.
it. Oh, you're so sweet.
All right, guys.
So sweet.
Well,
All right.
yeah, John, I'll talk to you next week about maybe doing a quick review for Ghost Story.
Yeah, it's a film you're either gonna love it or hate it. I loved it, but it'll split people right down the middle for sure.
Where did you come in on?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It Comes at Night.
Yeah, that was another one, split people right down the middle. It wasn't for me. It was probably my least favorite A24 film. So
I
yeah,
also didn't
was
like
not
Free
for
Fire
me.
though. I didn't like Free Fire. I didn't have that much.
Yeah, I was a little mixed on that one. It wasn't my favorite A24 film, but I didn't dislike it as much as the other. So
I guess kind of what I was saying, but even more so than Baby Driver. I could totally understand 100% if somebody completely loves the movie. Yeah, and I can totally understand if they completely hate the movie.
Yeah,
I almost found what it decided to show me offensive. And just for not. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, love you very much. And, Nathan, we'll have you back on again soon, too.
Yeah, always fun.
Nathan, good talking to you, man.
Yeah, man. It's always fun to talk to John Booker. So
anytime.
Anytime.
Guys. All right. You guys both have a great holiday. Bye-bye.
Yeah.